Then let's go live. Good morning. Okay, it is WTF CNN Wednesday. And we're going to stick with WTF CNN because, well, CNN is the propaganda of record for the DNC in theory. The New York Times is probably a close second. I would say CNN tops that chart basically because of their, uh, how do you say, airport viewership. Um,
Well, they're the original 24-hour news network.
They are. That is correct. But the Gray Lady has been the paper of record for over a century now. Is that right?
Something like that.
I don't know. For way too damn long. Um,
Oh, it's in the New York Times.
and and as Ben Shapiro points out, hey, Drew's in here.
Morning,
Good
Drew.
morning, Drew. Good to see you, buddy.
I can't
But
see the comments, obviously, so.
right, we gotta figure that out soon. We gotta fix that somehow. Um, but we'll get there. We're getting back on point again. I had a little disruption. Uh, oh, that's a terrible noise.
Oh, sorry. I cranked the truck. I needed AC. That was my fault.
Oh, oh, damn. Anywho, Dave. Yes, the paper that was started by slaveholders. Yes. We should do a little research and see how many slaves were involved in the manufacture of the Statue of Liberty.
Probably zero since France made it.
Uh, France made it. I hate to burst the bubbles, but the recent Disney live action version of Beauty and the Beast, not ethno-historically accurate. Um, so, wow. Okay, we got derailed by your noise and saying good morning to some people. Where was I? CNN. it, CNN gets their viewership from the airport primarily, but let me tell you something. They're also on in the waiting room at the VA, doctor's offices, dentist offices. You're being force fed this garbage. Um, I I put it to you that you should ask anytime you're stuck in a waiting room with CNN playing, ask them to change it to something else,
Anything else. Not
anything
necessarily
else.
Fox News. Like the Disney Channel.
Especially if you have your kids with you, because frankly, CNN, if letting your children be exposed to CNN, that's child abuse, straight up. Um, Allowing your children to be exposed to CNN will turn them into gender questioning soy children. Uh, you have to
Marxists.
yeah, Marxist. Um, I apologize. I thought Drew made a comment. I'm sorry to hear you weren't sleeping last night, Drew. That's unfortunate. Cameron has moved his camera around. Let me get him back in the picture. There you go. So, well, the thing. Okay, let's get to the topic at hand.
Yes,
I,
let's
I've
do the
bitched
thing.
about I've bitched about the New York Times and CNN for 3.5 minutes now. Let's. So what happened yesterday? William Barr testified before the House Judicial Committee. I have not watched the whole thing yet because it's 4 hours, and believe it or not, sometimes I've got shit to do. But uh, I hope to get through the rest of it, and I am definitely, like Cameron and I were talking about a little earlier, I am definitely looking forward to Viva Fry and the Body Language Ghost doing videos about this because their particular expertise in this sort of analysis are just precious. Um,
Yeah, we're actually talking about coming back and pre-recording a more proper analysis of the entire testimony. But what we're focused on here is just a
yeah, because
couple little points.
I'm a tactical and strategic uh, intelligence analyst. Um, I am on the level of Viva Fry and the body language ghost for my field of expertise. Similar amount of education, similar length of experience, but for the analysis on the law, Viva Fry is hard to beat. And for the analysis on reading body language, the body language ghost, brother, you put those three pieces together, and that's going to be. I think we're going to have a very interesting info drill to put down. Now,
So,
let's talk a little bit about what happened with Barr yesterday. We saw something from every Democrat that we've seen clips out of so far, and please believe this is every Democrat. You think back to the hearings on Benghazi, and each Republican asked pointed, important questions about the evidence at hand, while each Democrat ignored the hearing they were there for and and just did grandstanding on Black Lives Matter, and yes, on Black Lives Matter and on police brutality and on Obamacare, and they just made these ridiculous long speeches about things that were completely unrelated to the topic. This was a little different. This was also about grandstanding, but in theory, AG Barr was there to discuss what?
primarily the federal response to the protesters is their cover fire, as it were.
So, and let's not forget that Nadler has told us that there there are no protests, right? So the narrative on the left right now is there are no protests. The violent, uh, or I'm sorry, no, there are no riots. The violent rioters are a myth.
Oh yeah,
The
it's all
Oh, no,
exaggerated
no, no,
and
no, no. Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. Let's get them all on the table real quick because it's important to look at them in context of one another. There are no riots. The rioters are a myth. The violence which is occurring is in response to Trump's aggressive tactics. The the rioters that are burning down the courthouse, which don't exist, the rioters, which are a myth and don't exist, that are trying to burn down courthouses, are only doing that because there are federal authorities in those courthouses. But those federal authorities arrived at the courthouses after the fire bombings started. It seems to me like there's enough uh, dissimula- dissembling, deflecting, lying. They're lying. Nothing's changed.
yes.
They're damn liars.
I mean, and
They
this is
want you to believe
1980.
that there are no riots and that the riots are in response to Donald Trump. And that's both of those are clearly false. If the riots are in response to Donald Trump, then the first proposition that there are no riots is false. And if the riots were in response to Trump's actions, then they would have begun after the federal troops were deployed. None of these things are true. The fact of the matter is, protests began, almost instantaneously became cities on fire riots, and then nearly 2 months later, while these protests continued to burn down buildings in dozens of cities, then federal troops were sent in to protect federal property in cities and states where the governors and mayors refused to enforce the law and protect their citizenry from monsters with Molotov cocktails dressed as housewives. This wall of moms bullshit, they're liars. I'm not saying they're not mothers, but what they are is violent agitating activists.
Okay, so as far as the what the fuck CNN, this is actually what the fuck every major network, because
All of you.
in order, yeah, all of you, in order to maintain the fiction, of course, they have to control the narrative. And a very, very interesting thing happened. Um, some of Barr's opening statements were leaked ahead of time, and that's I mean, par for the course in this day and age. That's just going to happen. Um, so all the networks were ready to go. They gypped in. They they got Nadler. They got Nadler's opening statements. The the wonderful, esteemed Jerry Nadler, dude, he managed to stay awake through his entire opening statement. He didn't go into a diabetic coma. And of course, Nadler says all these things, basically accuses Bill Barr of being, Donald Trump's butt boy, and that there's all this corruption, and then what's going on in the Justice Department is just, it's unprecedented. And to be fair, what's going on in the Justice Department is unprecedented. It looks like Bill Barr is actually trying to follow the law first and worry about the politics of it second. And that hadn't happened in a while. And he's actually trying to do it with some sack. And yeah. So all the networks, they're dialed in. We get the opening. And then we get Jim Jordan's Republican response. And Jim Jordan just starts to lay it all out. Goes through the timeline, talks about Flynn getting set up and resigning, and discusses in detail how Sally Yates and Eric Holder and even Jeff Sessions all handled this. And now suddenly you've got Bill Barr, who's just telling the truth, and the truth that Bill Barr told that it just can't be exposed to the public is, of course, that the Obama administration spied on Donald Trump. And as Jim Jordan lays this case out, suddenly, all the networks just bump out. There's the super important hearing that
Oh yeah,
somehow they were all,
super important.
yeah, super important. Important enough for them all to jip in. And gosh, that's not coordination. No, how dare you accuse us of that? And then once Jim Jordan starts blasting everybody in the room, they all bump out. And it's like, guys, come on. Come on. I mean, I realize that a lie makes it halfway around the world before the truth finishes putting on its pants. But what they're doing now is so egregious. I actually think normies are starting to notice. Like, whoa, 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 wait, what?
I think that's pretty clearly the case now.
Because how could you ignore the fact there's a whoa, wait a minute? Jim Jordan was like mid sentence and you just bumped out. Wait, what? He was actually laying out a timeline. Okay, we're done. And then, of course, we're just going to get the highlights over the course of the day. Like, I don't remember which one it was, but somebody told him he needed to keep John Lewis's name out of his mouth. Told Bill Barr he needed to keep John Lewis's name out of his mouth. And I think that's a brilliant thing that Barr did, too, invoking John Lewis, because he's hot topic right now. It's almost like he knew he would get the response that he got. And then in particular, depending on
Well, and just
who,
real quick, John Lewis is going to be the topic du jour for some time, because anytime you have a virulent racist who's on the left, that gives you any reason to put them in the headlines, the the mainstream press is going to go out of their way to keep reminding you what a great man this particular virulent ethno supremacist was.
yeah, he was a shite congressman. Let's be honest. You gotta have respect for the dead. Yeah. Oh, hey, that goes on the list. And totally separate, topic. Rabbit hole. We're not going to go down now.
Wait, which
Um,
list? What goes on the list? I'll put it on the list.
the list of phrases that people accept as truth, but maybe they're not. Things like you shouldn't talk about religion and politics, and
Ah,
yeah, that list. Don't speak ill of the dead. Why? What if they were really shitty for
Jabba Nadler.
decades?
Tim says, I can't believe Jordan didn't choke out Jabba Nadler. Damn it, Tim. I'm trying to do a show here. Shut up and quit distracting me. Um, it was
But the
it was Rep. Cedric Richmond that told Bill Barr to keep John Lewis's name out of his mouth.
Yeah, and then you've got Hank Johnson. Hank, we can't have too many people on one side of the island or it might start to tip over. Johnson. And if you think I'm
and the
exaggerating,
and the man has a big enough vocabulary, spent enough time in college to use the word capsize syntaxually correct in the sentence, and still is concerned that the island will capsize. Not if we put everybody on one side, just if we deploy more Marines to it.
and
I
seriously,
shit you not.
yeah, I was about to say if you haven't seen this gem, when you're done here, go find the YouTube video of Hank Johnson sincerely asking about tipping an island over. And you should just see this military commander's face. Like, I swear, he's like, is he trolling me? Is he is he making fun of me and I just don't realize it? Or
And
is he
I don't
really?
remember if it was an admiral or a marine general, but it was there were some stars on them boards, and his face just no no congressman. We're fairly confident that's not going to be an issue.
So, but anyhow, the what's really interesting is depending on the type of media that you consume, you were either told the story that Hank Johnson destroyed Bill Barr, or if you heard the whole thing in proper context, you realize that Bill Barr destroyed Hank Johnson. I mean, with like one hand tied behind his back, because Hank Johnson was trying to really chew into the point, and he was using clever, emotionally laced language. Do you really expect the American people to not believe that you're acting on Trump's behalf, and that with the sentencing of Roger Stone, that you just did that because that's what Trump wanted? And Barr actually starts talking about, actually, this happened on this day at this time, and this happened on this day at this time. So your timeline is incorrect. And then Hank Johnson's backing up, saying, well, I reclaim my time. You know, if you know how like in Facebook on Facebook, if you're debating somebody and they block you, you know you won the debate. I sincerely believe that if a congressperson says I reclaim my time, you've won the debate with the congressperson. Because,
Yes.
but that's the thing. This 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 testimony, and I haven't heard all of it either. I've been extremely busy at work, but I've listened to a good bit of it. This testimony should have been on everybody's television for 4 hours. Absolutely, absolutely. Given the fact that the federal government is being accused of some kind of soft Nazism, sending in the jackbooted thugs to break up the peaceful protests, and that's the narrative that's out there. Well, okay, America's top cop speaking to that, I dare say, is the most important thing. And being questioned by people from both sides of the aisle about his motives and his tactics and all of that, again, that's actually extremely relevant. We should have that on our TVs for 4 hours. But no, instead, you see Nadler's opening statement. We bump out during Jim Jordan's, and then the media is kind enough to cherry pick things. So we swear we're giving you the whole story. We're giving you the whole story, and they're not. They're absolutely not. So this is not just what the fuck CNN. This is what the fuck everybody. Like, did y'all seriously, Chris? Have they? Are they just so crazy that they don't understand that they're exposing themselves? Do they have so much hatred for Donald Trump and by extension guys like you and I that think they're full of shit that they just don't care? The roughly 50% of the country that is so deep in the cave, they don't even understand there's a thing called a cave. Are they just that desperate to keep them in the cave?
You better be careful with that particular allegory of the cave there, um, because
It's
well,
accurate.
I assume our audience has at least some passing familiarity with the allegory of the cave. But what Cameron's talking about is in the allegory of the cave, you have you have men stuck in a cave that don't know there's anything outside. One man goes out, he comes back and tells them, "Hey, there's a lot of interesting shit outside. You're outside your cave. There's a whole new way to live, a whole new world of information out there." And they don't believe him, and they get angry and kill him. That's the cave. That is where the Marxist lives. That is how the snowflake do. Um, and that's a whole nother reference. Uh,
Here we have some true facts about the snowflake.
oh God, there's a spoof series I could do. Ooh, buddy.
Yeah, but I mean, but what is it, man? Are they just are they so invested at this point? They they're basically the kid on the playground that can't admit they're wrong.
Well, at the leadership level, at your Nadler, I started to say Hank Johnson, but not really. Hank Johnson's just,
I think Johnson makes Joe Biden look smart.
I mean, I've met him. I've met him a couple times. Never had a real conversation with him. Just met him at events and shaking his hand. I'm always
Which
polite to politicians, um,
could
even
you
when I
even
ask them
have?
rough questions. I mean, I'm generally polite to people, but he's just the kind of guy that you shake his hand and you're like, good God, I hope that comes with an IQ back guarantee because I suddenly feel a desperate thirst for some ginkgo biloba and a cup of tea right now. Um, the but anyway, I digress. The Nadlers, the leadership guys, it's not about being crazy. Um, they're dedicated to the Goebbels tactic. It doesn't matter if they're right or wrong. They have a they have a determined, prescribed direction, and they're going to remain committed to that no matter what. That's why you see things like with Nadler and Johnson questioning Barr. They would ask him a question, and when he didn't, and knowing, I mean, they would ask him the question knowing full well that he's not going to respond with the exact uh, clickbait, soundbite, snippet, headline answer that they want. They ask him the question, they let him get a few syllables out, and then they cut him off with, "Well, if you're not going to answer my question, oh." And boy, that is one of those things that chaps my ass. I would have I have a very short fuse for that kind of conversation. If you ask me a question, and those of you who know me, if you ask me a question, expect an answer, and ask yourself before you ask that question, are you ready for this answer? Because there could be a lot of answers.
I think anybody who's ever even met you
And
tangentially.
quite simply, I when I ask somebody a question, I want a full answer. That's what I'm asking for. I'm not asking for I'm not asking for what you think you assume you I wanted me to ask. I'm not asking the question you think I wanted to ask. No, I'm asking you the question I asked intentionally, deliberately, and that is the answer that I want. Is the answer to the question I asked. If I
Yeah,
ask you what's for dinner, and the answer is I don't know, what do you want? Well, that's not very useful. But
I want a steak. God damn it!
yeah, I mean, because now I don't have the information I need. I don't know what my options are. If I'm having to choose between unknowns, no, that's not an option. Um, or yes, yes, Steve, a very long-winded answer. But even my long-winded answer is generally concise to explicit points of information, but complete.
Yeah, and honestly, if you ask me, what do you want for dinner? the answer is basically always going to be steak, eggs, some type of potato to mop up all the yolk and blood that runs out of the steak. Like that's beef French fries, baked potato, whatever. Garlic bread is a good alternative. No, but as I asked the question,
I don't know. I have a
um,
hard time eating garlic bread without pesto now.
yes, well, I don't live next door to a pesto factory. No, but as I asked the question, it's not so much about the guys like Nadler. We know what they want. They want more power. They want to be so rich and so well connected, their grandchildren can be worthless, lazy fucks for their entire life. I get that. Um, but I mean the media, the fact that they're coming to a place of being so blatant with their manipulation, like they obviously had it all coordinated. We're gonna make sure every housewife in America that's stuck at home with her rugrats in quarantine sees Jerry Nadler's statement. And if Jim Jordan starts doing that Jim Jordan thing, he's basically trying to replace Trey Gowdy as the biggest ass kicker in Congress. If Jim Jordan starts doing that Jim Jordan thing, we're all just going to bump out. Something more important is going to come up for whatever reason. And I don't know what in the blue fuck could be more important than America's top cop discussing these issues. But, I digress. I mean, the media itself, that they could even just slightly alter their tactics. They could attempt to get ahead of things. Because if you put me in charge of this war game at ABC, I would anticipate some type of fiery response from Jim Jordan. So I would do things like try and poison the well against what Jim Jordan is going to say. But when you're this obvious about it, like I wonder how many people just went, "Gosh, that they didn't let Jim Jordan finish and they cut out. That was weird."
Yeah. It's we're having some technical issues. It's, tell me about Tell me about Taiwan. Beep. Wait, what?
Yeah, shit like that. Like, wait, what? Let's just move on to the next question. But you didn't. You just told me you didn't hear the question. Let me repeat it for you.
No,
Go
no.
back.
Let's move on. And God, if y'all haven't seen Dr. Randomer Cam's treatment of the doctor from the World Health Organization hanging up on the reporter, go check that out. Learn you a little something about gutter oil whooping cough and tiger AIDS and turtle cooties.
But anyhow, man, I've got to. I'm actually already sitting in the truck, and gonna have to take off my Trump hat and hide it and go make the donuts. Just I wanted to say, what the fuck, everybody? This is so blatantly obvious what you did.
Wow,
Hey,
I didn't even get a chance to pull up my I didn't even get a chance to pull up the articles I pulled up. Um, that's okay.
but you
Uh,
did get to rabbit hole for the first few minutes of the show.
I did get to rabbit hole a bit, and I do enjoy a good rabbit hole. Let me just throw this one up there real quick. We talked a little bit at the beginning about the narrative that there are no protests. The protests are a myth. The protests started after Donald Trump attacked, and how all that's all false. Just in case anybody missed it, ABC reporting on the protests. I shit you not. Actual headline from ABC News: Protesters in California set fire to a courthouse, damaged a police station, and assaulted officers after peaceful demonstration intensified. Have, have you seen the meme? It's the what's his name, Rico from Starship Troopers, and it's just a picture of his face and it's shaking, and the caption says desire to know more intensifies.
Do you want to know more?
I think I'm gonna go ahead and make a GIF out of one of the fires, one of the cities on fire with the peace intensifies. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I've got for you for today. Y'all be safe out there. We'll see you tomorrow morning for hopefully we got a Totar Win Thursday. Honestly, it might just go to AG Barr. We might just talk about
Yeah.
this a little more and say, hey, AG Barr gets the Totar Win this Thursday. And we will see you tomorrow. Be safe out there. It's time to go to work.